Now, well, this is the time of year to snap up bargains at the garden center.
All right, of course, you need to be careful and look carefully before you buy. So we get some tips for you from the expert. Sarah's with Derek this morning. Morning, Sarah.
Yeah, I'm not the expert, but I did need to go back. I did need to go back to the garden center because I killed off a few things. So thankfully, the bargains are to be had right now.
The bargains are to be had right now. This is a great time of year because nurseries are segueing into what they're going to have for fall. A lot of things like veggies and annuals and perennials are past their peak, and you can get stuff up to. I saw some stuff for 70% off.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so
we're going to talk about perennials, annuals, and shrubs.
Okay.
And so perennials. This is a daylily. The daylily has completely finished blooming. There's no more blooms to be had this season.
So now, is it a good one though? It doesn't.
Yeah. Now, what you want to do with the yellow leaves and everything, don't worry about it because it is going to come back next year. Okay. But what you want to look at, the roots. You want to make sure that the roots are nice and plump. You see, this is a fresh new root. Okay. This one, even though it's turned color, it's still nice and firm.
Okay.
You don't want to buy a perennial that has dried out roots because that's usually an indication that something else is going on. Plants like echinacea, which is coneflower, they don't like being in a container. However, if you look beyond the ugly, what you'll see is that this plant, and I'm just cleaning it up here, this plant is actually rearing to go for next year.
Cut it back that far. Wow.
Cut all of that old spent blooms out because what you want it to do is when you get it into your garden, you want it to go ahead and get the root system going for next year and also produce foliage that's going to produce food for the roots.
Okay.
So cut it back that far. Don't try to get those blooms to bloom back.
Okay.
The same thing with like perennial bachelor buttons. This one, you see all of this death, you may think the plant's bad, but beyond that, is a really healthy plant. And if it's a perennial, it's going to come back and it's going to rebloom. Same thing with grasses. Know your grasses. This grass, and I brought this in because this is a really interesting grass. It's Carex buchanani. This is the color that it grows out. Oh. So don't think that the grass is dead.
Okay, that's good to know. I would think that was dead.
Yeah, know the plant and ask the garden center.
What do we do about
our annuals? Like this begonia, and then you've got coleus there.
I love that. I have
the same thing. This plant is going to recover in your garden. This is going to sap energy. Take the time to cut all this back. Now that may seem harsh, but what you've got down here is a really healthy young plant. By mid-August, this is going to flush out, and you're going to have a really nice begonia. If you try to grow this back, it's not really going to do that well.
So you want to wait until after the blooms are gone?
No. When you get this plant home, this plant's 70% off at a nursery, right? When you get this plant home, cut this off immediately.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Because then in the next 2 weeks, this plant now has got all this root, and it's going to flush out, and you're going to have healthy blooms again and a healthy plant.
I'll take your advice on that.
Now, what about herbs?
Mine are starting to look like this, too.
Here's the thing, basil. We all love basil. Don't take the bait on the basil in the nursery centers. You see this dark woody stuff here?
Yeah.
That plant is never going to grow back in healthy.
Oh,
why? Because basil is it's a woody plant, and when it gets to this stage where it's losing leaves, the yellowing that I'm seeing here tells me that it was without water. If I pull it out of the pot, it's probably really pot bound. So don't take the bait on basil. But oregano, even though it looks a little bit ratty, you can absolutely go ahead and get this oregano because this is a perennial. This is going to come back every year.
Okay, real quick on the shrubs. We have about 30 seconds left. What did you want to mention about your shrubbery?
The shrubbery, if you see death in the shrubbery, like that brown spot that you see there, make sure that the rest of the plant is nice and emerald green. Stay away from yellow shrubs. Check the root system. Take the time to take it out of the pot. The other real quick thing, vegetables. I've seen a lot of really, really good peppers and tomatoes that have fruit. Get them. If you missed the boat on putting them in earlier or they didn't make it, get the larger plants, put them in your garden, and you'll still have good veggies.
Great. And if anybody has questions for you, where can they find you?
At Thomas Garden Guy on Twitter or on Facebook. Like us at Thomas Landscapes.
All right. Always keeping our gardens beautiful.
Yeah.
Allison and Steve, back to you.
And bargains.
Yeah, and bargains. Right. I know.
Gardens and bargains.
Perfect
All
combination.
right. Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Sarah. Still ahead in the Fox beat this morning. All right. We talked about it earlier. 50 Shades of Grey, the movie coming out. It's going to be a big thing, right? Even if it's not good, people are going to go see it.
Of course they are.
Well, the trailer is just out today. The Too
we
Hot for
show
TV
this?
trailer is out. We'll show you what we can.
Show you part of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kevin is heavily editing it right now, and we'll see what we can do about that coming up.
And I'll tell you the scoop on the new Jackson's reality show, too.
Oh, you got the details?
I got some scoop.
Fantastic.
Wasn't hard.
Do you believe me?